Hare Krishna, good morning. Om Ajnana Timandasya Chananjana Shalaka Sakshurnitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Chitchetanya Manobhistam Staptam Yena Bhutale Svam Rupadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandhyam Shiyo Shiyuda Padakamanam Shigaram Vaishnavamsa Shri Rupam Sarashatam Saganaragnatam Fitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sadhutam Parijana Saitam Shri Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sakanalita Shivishakam Vitam Sham Hey Krishna Karuna Sinudina Bandhajat Pate Gopesha Kakanta Radha Kanta Namastate Tapta Kansana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavanashri Vishavana Sutta Devi Pranamama Hari Priya Pancha Kauta Visha Kripa Sindhve Visha Patanam Pavanabhyo Vaishnabhyo Namo Namo Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shiva Sadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Namo Vishnu Krishna Vistaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhakti Vedanta Swami Namani. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharani. Nirvishesha Sinyavadi Paskachai Desatarani Srila Prabhupada Ki. So, it seems that Zoom is working a little better than last week, that hopefully it remains like that. So last week we discussed we heard Krishna describing in Bhagavad Gita the practice of Astanga Yoga and also the realizations of an Astanga Yogi. That after hearing all of this, what does Arjuna say? He says, this is nothing for me. I cannot do this, Krishna. That's text 33. So we'll read 33. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 633. Arjuna uvacha yoyam yogastvaya prokta samyena madhusudana etasyam napashyame sansalatvat stitim stiram. Arjuna said, O Madhusudan, the system of yoga which you have summarized appears impractical and unendurable to me, for the mind is restless and steady. So Arjuna, as he doubts, he says, I cannot do it. In some lectures, Srila Prabhupada, he says, yes, Arjuna cannot do it. He's 1,000 times more qualified than all of us. So what about us? That in the next verse, there Arjuna will say, Sansalam imana Krishna pramati balavatritam tasyam nihram manye vayo iva suduskram. The mind is restless, turbulent, obstinate, and very strong. O Krishna, and to subdue it, I think it is more difficult than controlling the wind. Controlling the wind. Because, why is that? Because sometimes the mind overcomes the intellect. Like this young man here on the screen, this is probably his birthday cake. So he ate a lot from the cake, but now he's saying, oh, I ate too much. So the mind is overcoming the intellect. Because the mind is so attached to material enjoyment that we overeat, we do so many things, because the mind feels, yeah, that's good. And it overcomes the intellect. This is also explained in the purport of verse 34. There, it is said, the mind is so strong and obstinate that it often overcomes even one's own intelligence, as an acute infection may surpass the efficacy of medicine. So that's a problem. We chant Hare Krishna and the mind wants to do something else. It starts to meditate on other things and you have to bring it back. It's so fickle. The mind is fickle, agitating, strong and firm, Vishwanatha Bhakti translates. And the verse says, in the verse, Arjuna says, I think it's more difficult than controlling the wind. What's the function of the mind? The mind factually is a driving instrument. You see on these pictures horses that the driver, the passenger, so the individual is the passenger in the car of the material body, and the intelligence is the driver. The mind is the instrument, and the senses are the horses. So it should be like that. But if the driving instruments becomes independent from the will of the passenger, it may bring him to places where he does not want to go. So we cannot capture the wind. We cannot control the wind. So Srila Prabhupada makes a point, it's only by chanting Hare Krishna with humility that we can be delivered from the mind's control. Because as long as the mind is influenced by lust, anger, greed, madness, illusion, envy, desire for profit and distinction, and so on, then it can be very difficult to control the mind, because that makes the mind uncontrollable. What is now Lord Krishna's reply? 35. Lord Krishna replies, Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, Asamsya Mahabahu Manu Durnikham Chalam, Abhyasena Tukantya Varhyena Sarjayate. Lord Krishna said, O mighty armed son of Kunti, it is undoubtedly very difficult to curb the restless mind, but it is possible by suitable practice and detachment. Srila Prabhupada uses the word suitable practice. Why that word suitable? What is that suitable practice? That Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, by the practice of Krishna consciousness, one engages in the 9 types of devotional service. The first and foremost of such devotional engagement is hearing about Krishna. The more one hears about Krishna, the more one becomes enlightened and detached from everything that draws the mind from Krishna. So the more we have Krishna in the mind, the more the mind becomes purified, and the more the intelligence gets control over the mind. This is not easy, because we easily say, I'm not a body. That's nice. That I'm a spirit soul, I'm not a body. But then 10 minutes later, we say, I'm hungry. That means we are in bodily consciousness. And that's all generated by the mind. That the mind, we have that mindset that we are the body. And it's not just by saying I'm not a body that we put this mindset out of our mind. No, that must be removed by removing all these enemies of the mind. These enemies of the mind get power because we identify with the body, and they force us to identify with the body. And our mind makes us do things we don't want to do. So suitable practice and attachment. Vairagya, detachment. By the discharge of devotional service, one feels transcendental satisfaction as the mind becomes detached from material objectives. So that's material life, what makes the mind uncontrollable. How does it become uncontrollable? As explained in the 2nd chapter of the Gita, Dayate Vishyapum Samsangaste Subhajayate Sangha Sanyate Kama Kama Kota Vijayate. It starts with Dayate, meditation, attachment. We meditate on things in this world. How can I enjoy this? How can I obtain it? And the mind uses the intelligence to make plans, how to get that object. And then attachment is created. And together with the attachment, expectations are created. I'm going to enjoy now. But when the enjoyment comes, then it's not what expected. There are a lot of other things that come with the enjoyment. We become frustrated, angry, and so on. But vairagya here means detachment. But the discharge of devotional service, one feels transcendental satisfaction when the mind becomes detached from material objects. Because devotional service there is no sense of proprietorship. Everything belongs to the Lord. In the 3rd chapter, we have discussed there that, a devotee is like a cashier in the bank. The cashier is sitting behind the counter, and someone comes and brings $1 million to put on his account. Is the cashier happy? No, it's for the bank. Bank is not for me. It's not attached to it. And then someone comes and withdraws $500,000. Is he going to cry? No, it belongs to the bank. So everything belongs to Krishna. That loss or profit is for the company. It's for Krishna. We do our best as an employee. And that's the mood of a devotee. And then one feels always peaceful. That today, with the COVID-19 coronavirus pandemic. So many people are in anxiety. Their money is not worth much anymore, that they cannot pay their bills, no income. So much anxiety because they are attached to all the things they have collected and tried to maintain. But yes, suitable practice and attachment. Srila Prabhupada writes, hearing of the transcendental activities of Lord Krishna is therefore the expert treatment for the mad mind. And eating foodstuff offered to Krishna is the appropriate diet for the suffering patient. This treatment is the process of Krishna consciousness. So, Srila Prabhupada said, yes, the treatment is hearing about Krishna. Because by that, we develop our awareness of our real spiritual self. We develop our awareness who Krishna is, what our relationship is. And by eating only prasad, our consciousness becomes also purified. So that's our diet. Because, and that's mentioned in the next verse, that asamsaryatmana yogo dusprapa iti me mati. Pasyatmana tu yatata sakyo vaptum upajata. For one whose mind is unbridled, self-realization is difficult work. But he whose mind is controlled and who strives by appropriate means is assured of success. That is my opinion. Yeah. So Krishna says, it's my opinion that yoga is not possible for one with an uncontrolled mind. It's a joke. It's just not possible. Yoga practice without mental control is a waste of time. Therefore, one must control the mind by engaging it in transcendental loving service to the Lord. After hearing that, Arjuna is doubtful. He feels still it's such a difficult process. I may be unsuccessful. So, therefore, Arjuna is asking in the next session about the destination of an unsuccessful yogi. And this section will go from text 37 till 45. So Krishna will ask about the destination of the unsuccessful yogi, and Krishna assures him that the yogi's next birth will be auspicious, giving him another chance for self-realization. So at the end, the last verses of this chapter, he will give a description of Ashtanga Yoga and comparing it to the karmis, the jnanis, the tapasvis, those who perform austerities. And Krishna says the yogi is superior to all these. But among the yogis, he will conclude the Bhakti Yoga, yogi who always thinks of Krishna and worship him with faith, is the best. So that's the last section we will now discuss. And we will start with text 37. That is, again, Arjuna expressing his doubts. He expresses his doubts in 3 verses. I will read these 3 verses. Arjuna Uvacha ayati shadayo peto yoga kshalati manasa, aprapya yoga samsitim kam gatim Krishna gacchati. Arjuna said, O Krishna, what is the destination of the unsuccessful transcendentalist? Who in the beginning takes to the process of self-realization with faith, but later desists due to worldly mindedness, and thus not attain perfection in mysticism. Kashinna vaya viprastas chinabram ivanashati apashta mahabharo vimuda brahmanipati. Almighty Lord Krishna, does such a man who is bewildered from the path of transcendence fall away from spiritual and material success and perish like a riven cloud with no position in any sphere? Etame samsyam Krishna chetu maraj ashishata patanya samsyasya nat chetana yupapachate. This is my doubt, O Krishna, and I ask you to dispel it completely. But for you, no one is to be found who can destroy this doubt. So to pursue the transcendental path, Srila Prabhupada said, is more or less declaring war with the illusory energy. Therefore, Arjuna wants to know what happens to one who is allured into deviating from transcendence. If the aspiring transcendentalist falls down, he appears to lose materially and spiritually. Krishna consciousness is the best path for spiritual realization. That because it includes Brahman and Paramatma realization. It is direct. To reach Krishna to Brahman and Paramatma realization takes many births. We have heard that before, that Bhaunam Gananante, so it takes many births before before the yogi comes to that realization that Krishna is Vasudeva. Vasudeva Sarvamiti Paunam Gyananta Jnanapan Mam Papachati Vasudeva Sarvamiti Samatma Sudurlabha. So after many births, the Jnani, Krishna says, that he realizes that Vasudeva is everything, and then he starts to engage in devotional service. So to reach Krishna to Brahman and Paramatma realization takes many births. Because first, one has to come to Brahman realization, and then from Brahman realization, one can realize Krishna is everything and can go to Bhakti there directly. But many, they don't realize it. And then they take to the path of yoga, Ashtanga yoga. And then finally they realize the super soul is if they are not deviated by mystic powers. That if they are not deviated, they are then they realize the super soul is the controller of material energy. But what's the cause of the super soul? Who is the super soul? It's an expansion of Krishna. If they realize that God is not only the controller, but the source of everything, and that the source of everything is Krishna, then only they will come to devotional service. And at the end of this chapter, Krishna will make that point, that higher than the yogi is the Bhakti yogi. So that's Arjuna's doubt. And now, what does Krishna say? In the next verse 40, Krishna replies, and he assures Arjuna. He says, Sri Bhagavan Vacha, Bhakta Naveya Namuta, vinasastasya vidyate. Naikalyana kritika shit durgatim tata gacchati. The Supreme Personality of Godhead said, O son of Buddha, a transcendentalist engaged in auspicious activities does not meet with destruction, either in this world nor or in the spiritual world. One who does good, my friend, is never overcome by evil. So Krishna in the 9th chapter also will say, Nami Bhaktya Pranashati, my devotee never perishes. Here Krishna says, one who does not good is never overcome by evil. So when one practices devotional service, we may not get the result yet of becoming completely purified and going back to God. So what's our destination? Next life. The consolation prize, the minimum you get, the bare minimum, you get again the human form of life. That we will learn in the 7th chapter, next chapter. Krishna speaks about 4 kinds of people who don't surrender to him. And the second one is the Narada. The Narada, the Srila Prabhupada said, are those who are socially and politically well developed, but they have no clue about spiritual existence. They identify completely with the body. And they are so immersed in the mode of passion, they are on the way to animal life. And Srila Prabhupada said, Naradams, 99.999% of all population is Naradam, is on the way to animal life. That you perform devotional practice even for a short time. Consolation prize, at least human form of life, which is a great gift. That's the bare minimum. But Krishna speaks about 2 kinds of yogis. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, activity in Krishna consciousness is the only auspicious activity. And anyone who voluntarily accepts all bodily discomforts for the sake of making progress on the path of Krishna consciousness can be called a perfect transcendentalist under severe austerity. One who tries his best in this matter must not fear degradation. So that means we will not degrade to lower forms of life. You get the human form of life. But then, so first Krishna assures Arjuna, this transcendentalist will never meet with destruction. Yeah. And he writes in the purport also that strict followers of Vedic rituals will not give up their practice to take to devotional service out of fear of sinful reactions. But Srimad Bhagavatam states that the benefits of devotional service are never lost. Furthermore, prescribed duties without Krishna consciousness are useless. That means that you perform devotional service and you make 10%, let's say you make 10% progress in this life. Next life, you start again from 10%. So soon you will develop, your consciousness will develop, and you will attain this 10% consciousness you have developed. That will be explained later in these verses. But then Krishna says, we are the one who have a short practice of Krishna consciousness, and one who has a long practice. One who has a short practice is not yet purified. The heart is not yet purified. There's still the desire to enjoy. The one with a long practice, he has practically erased all the gross material desires from his heart, but there is still some subtle work to do. But first Krishna speaks about the yogi with a short practice. We can say that devotees would chant Hare Krishna and follow the four related principles. They are in the category, especially after a full few years of practice, they are in the category of long-term practice. But the neophyte, the beginner, is still a very strong Saka and Bhakta. He has still strong material desires. So what happens with the first category? Krishna explains in 41. Prapya punyakitam lokam pushitva sasvati sama shuchinam shimatam gehe yoga brasta vijayate. The unsuccessful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planet of the pious living entities, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. So here, Lord Krishna says that so he will go first to the heavenly planets, the world of the pious, yeah, and will enjoy there for many, many years. And when his pious qualities are finished, he's born again, either in a family of aristocrats, of very rich and religious men, and there he gets a comfortable situation so that he does not need to work too much and can concentrate on making further progress in the Vaishnava service. So that's one with a short practice. Now we will hear for one with a long practice of the Vaishnava service. That text 42. Atava yoginam eva kulabhavati dimatam etatri dulabhataram loke janmayati trisam. Or if unsuccessful after a long practice of yoga, it takes its birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. Certainly such a birth is rare in this world. That in the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, my Guru Maharaj was in that case, Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Maharaj. He was a son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And I was in that case, Srila Prabhupada said. I was the son of Mohan Dey. My father was a pure Vaishnava. So we were both in that case of the unsuccessful yogi after a long of practice. So Srila Prabhupada writes, so the unsuccessful yogi after a long practice takes birth in a family of transcendentalists who are surely great in wisdom. So transcendentalists or families of pure devotees, certainly such a birth is rare in this world. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, on Vishnupad's Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Sarasvati Goswami Maharaj and our humble self had the opportunity to take birth in such families. By the grace of the Lord, and both of us were trained in the devotional service of the Lord from the very beginning of our lives. Later we met by the order of the Transcendental System. See, Srila Prabhupada, when he was 5 years old, his father arranged to build for him a small a small Ratha Yatra cart made according to the model they are using in Jagannath Puri, and they organized a Ratha Yatra festival in the street for all the children and all the mothers of the area where cooking and providing sweets and prasad, and they were chanting in the street, going forth and back and distributing prasad. So it is also known that when Srila Prabhupada was just a baby, he remembered, and a toddler, he was remembering when he was sleeping, going to sleep, he was hearing the puja bell, his father doing puja for the deities, and he was taking darshan at the temple of the Muliks, that he was there for hours. He was absorbed. He was 5 years old. He was just for hours. He could stand there, just looking, gazing at Radha Govinda, the beautiful deities of the Muliks temple. I've been there 25 years ago, that together with Bhakti Maharaj, and it's a very, these deities are so beautiful, and it's a very nice temple. We were there very well received. That beautiful deities even today. So that means whatever advancement we make, it's never lost, and that's how that happens. That's explained in text 43. Tatratam buddhi samyukam labate parvadekam yatato satato bhuya samsidako anandana. On taking such a birth, he revives the divine consciousness of his previous life. And he again tries to make further progress in order to achieve complete success, O son of God. We have here the example of Bharat Maharaj. Bharat Maharaj, he retired from his kingdom, performed yoga, and he had practically attained the stage of Bhava, a stage from where one normally does not fall down, but it was an extreme case. And he became attached to a deer, but and at the time of death, he was thinking of the deer, and he got the body of a deer. But even in that body, his Krishna consciousness was there. He was remembering his previous life and all what happened. His consciousness was not diminished. It was still there. And he remembered everything. He went back to the ashram, was hearing from the sages, and was waiting for the time to leave his body. And then in the next life, he became Jat Bharat, and again he remembered his previous lives. And now he had the determination, I will not become entangled anymore. I learned my lesson. And therefore he was called Jat Bharat, mad. He did everything opposite what his father instructing was him so that everyone would leave him alone, that he would not become entangled in this material world. And then we have the instruction in the Bhagavatam, where he became a carrier of the carriage of the palanquin of King Ravana. I was instructing King Ravana, very instructive part of the Srimad Bhagavatam. But we see that he remains having, its consciousness remains. That his spiritual advancement is not lost. In our case, it may not happen in the same way, but Krishna says, yeah, one who takes birth revives the divine consciousness of his previous life, and he again tries to make further progress in order to complete success. And we see also in the birth chart, astrological birth chart of devotees, we can see many times it's outstanding how they are religious, how they are attracted to yoga. It's in their chart. And they take birth and naturally they become attracted to the yoga process. Even if they not desire it comes some way or another. So Krishna in 9:22 in Bhagavad Gita will say, Ananya Sintyantam Yejna Parapashite Samnitya Bhyaksam Yogaksema Pamyam. I preserve everything what my devotee has, and I give him more and more what he requires. And what does Krishna protect? Our Krishna consciousness. And he gives us more and more to advance in our Krishna consciousness. That so that is important. That we see that we are in the Bhagavatam. It's explained. We have 3 levels of material consciousness. That's in the Uddhav Gita in the 11th chapter. This 11th canto, I mean, from the Bhagavatam. This Uddhav Gita is like another Bhagavad Gita, but more detailed. And there Krishna explains Arjuna, you have 3 kinds of consciousness. Jagrati, awaken, Swapna, dreaming, and Susupti, deep sleep. That these are 3 states of material consciousness. That, but they are all related to bodily consciousness. That they are material. And beyond these 3 stages, there is Turiya, the transcendental consciousness, which is not temporary. That because sometimes we dream, sometimes we are in deep sleep, sometimes we are so-called awake. But we are awake. The awake state for the conditioned soul is also a dream state. A dream that begins with birth, thinking I'm this body, and at the end we leave this body, and it's all temporary. It's a gross dream, the others are subtle dreams. But our real consciousness is beyond that. It's Turiya. And when you develop Krishna consciousness, you develop this transcendental consciousness. And the characteristic is it's eternal. We have Narada Muni that when he was chanting in his previous life, he experienced death as a flash and lightning at the same time, and he was in his spiritual body. And then he went in the body of Mahavishnu to come out of the body of Brahma later by the next creation as a kind of pastime. Of course, Narada Muni is not created, he is a spiritual body. And then it's experienced to be in the body of Mahavishnu was the same experience as Mahavishnu. For Mahavishnu, the experience of creation is one exhalation. How long does it take? He had the same experience. It went very quick. That because he's under the spiritual energy, and when he appeared as Narada Muni, he still remembered his previous life, because his consciousness is spiritual, is not being covered. Like also here with Jad Bharat, interesting. His remembrance of his previous lives remains. That's very interesting. But he had a high level of realization, Bhava. But one may ask, if you have to take birth, 1 birth, 2 births, 3 births, how does it work? When do I go back to the spiritual world? One devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, if we are 90% Krishna conscious, will Krishna accept us? Srila Prabhupada said yes. Then the devotee said, and if we are 85% Krishna conscious, will Krishna accept us? And Srila Prabhupada said yes, but it would not go lower than 80%. We have in the Ramayana the example of the sages of the Dandakaranya forest. Lord Ram was going to in his exile to the Dandakaranya forest, and he met these sages. And these sages were all great devotees in the state of bhava practically. They were above the liberated states. And they expressed to Lord Ram, we want to have with you a relationship in conjugal love. And Lord Ram said, this is not possible in my incarnation. Eka Patni, I have only one wife, Sita, but in 2 million years of now, at the end of Dvapara Yuga, I will come back. I will come back as Krishna, and then you can have that relationship with me. All these sages of the Dandakaranya forest, they took birth as the Munichari gopis. They were sadhana siddhis. They tried to get perfection through sadhana, like we do. And they took birth as gopis, and they were trained further by Nitya Siddhi gopis, eternal associates of Srimati Radharani coming from the spiritual world. So that's what will take place if we are 50, 85, 90% pure. Then we take birth in a place where Krishna is his pastimes. And there we are further trained by the Nitya Siddha devotees of the Lord, the perfect devotees. And then we become fully perfect. But that birth is already considered as a spiritual birth. So that's very interesting. If you study the Bhagavatam, you can understand this process, how it works. We make progress, and finally, when we are practically pure, we take part in Krishna's pastimes, and then we go back to the spiritual world. But in some sense, we took already birth in this Kali Yuga and are now connected with Krishna's pastimes. It's Lord Chaitanya's movement in which we are. And its mission is Sankirtan. So we are already part of that movement. So this is a great chance. By the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, we can make quickly advancement by engaging in Sankirtan, chanting the holy names and distributing Srila Prabhupada's books, a sublime way to make very quick advancement. In text 44, this attraction to yogic principles is further explained. Purvabhyasena tene varichate tvasopisa Jichnasrapis yogasya sapta brahmati vartate. By the virtue of divine consciousness of his previous life, he automatically becomes attracted to the yogic principles, even without seeking them. Such an inquisitive transcendentalist stands always above the ritualistic principles of the scriptures. So text 45, Payatna yatamanastu yoga samsudakilbisa aneka janma samsidas tatuyati param katim. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being washed of all contamination, ultimately achieve perfection. After many, many births of practice, he attains the supreme goal. So what are we learning here? Before, Krishna has assured Arjuna that a transcendentalist never meets with destruction. He has explained the fate of one who is a short practitioner of devotional service and one who is a long practitioner of yoga. And he said, yes, there may be a few birds, but one becomes automatically attracted to the yogic principles. Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport 44, Lord Chaitanya accepted Thakur Haridas as one of his most important disciples. Although Thakur Haridas happened to take his birth in a Muslim family, he was elevated to the post of Namacharya by Lord Chaitanya due to his rigidly accepted attended principles of chanting 300,000 holy names of the Lord daily. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. And because he chanted the holy name of the Lord constantly, because he chanted the holy name of the Lord constantly, it is understood that in his previous life, he must have passed through all the ritualistic methods of the Vedas, known as Sapta Brahman. So, one becomes devotees in this life because one has been devotees in previous life. Someone asked Srila Prabhupada, how did we get the mercy to meet you and to become devotees in this life? Srila Prabhupada gave mainly two different answers. He said, you are a devotee in this life because you were a devotee in previous life. But at another occasion, someone asked Srila Prabhupada, what's the Ajnata Sukriti that we have performed, the unknown devotional service that we have now the mercy to become devotees in this life? And Srila Prabhupada said, I'm your Ajnata Sukriti. So there are different possibilities here. We became devotees because we were devotees in previous life, but we may also have become devotees in this life just by the mercy of Prabhupada. And that's the power of a pure devotee. So that is about the unsuccessful yogi. And in the last two verses, that Lord Krishna glorifies the yogi and says he's the highest, the yogi, but there's the highest yogi. That's the Bhakti yogi. That's the last verse. So Krishna has given us here a description of Ashtanga yoga, and he concludes with making a comparison. He compares the yogis to jnanis and karmis, tapasvis. Karmis are those who follow karma kanda. Jnanis, they want liberation from material existence by understanding that they are spirit different from matter. And the tapasvis, they are renounced and try to give up everything by force. But the yogi is higher than them. And superior to these yogis is the Bhakti yogi. First, 46. 46. Payatna yatamanastu yogi samsudakilvisa aneka jana samsidas tato yati param gatim. And when the yogi engages himself with sincere endeavor in making further progress, being watched of all contamination, then ultimately achieving perfection after many, many births of practice, attains the supreme goal. Tapasvibhyo diko yogi, jnanibhyo pimatodika, karmibhya sadiko yogi, tasma yogi bhavayana. A yogi is greater than the ascetic, greater than the empirist, greater than the fruitive worker. O Arjuna, in all circumstances, be a yogi. So Srila Prabhupada writes in the purport, Bhakti Yoga, Krishna consciousness, is the ultimate perfection of all yogas. Bhakti Yoga is full spiritual knowledge and nothing can excel it. So that's asceticism without self-knowledge is imperfect. You cannot attain liberation if you do not understand that you are a spirit soul different from the body and realize that. So the asceticism in itself does not help. Fruitive work without Krishna consciousness is a waste of time. That's karma kanda. Building up pious activities, and then you take birth again, and you have a better body on the heavenly planets or whatever, but you have to come back again, take birth and suffer again. It's a waste of time. It's going up and down in the universe. Empiric knowledge without surrendering to the Supreme is also imperfect. Yes, you can get liberation, but you cannot go into the spiritual world, because what do they do in the spiritual world? They act spiritually, perform devotional service. To get entrance to Vaikuntha, you must have devotion. And when that devotion, and one must understand who Krishna is, who we are, and what our relationship is. Engaging in, otherwise you cannot engage in devotional service. And empiricist does not have that full knowledge. So at the end, it is concluded, who is the topmost yogi? Yoginam api sarva samadhinanta atmana shadvambastu yomam samyukta tamamata. And of all yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself and renders transcendental devotional service to me. He's most intimately united with me in yoga, and he's the highest. So that is the conclusion of the chapter. That Baldev Bhushan says, but I consider he who worship me with faith, with mind attached to me, to be greater than all types of yogis. in the purport, Srila Prabhupada speaks mostly about that word, bhajate. Bhajate can only mean worship with devotion. So that makes this verse, this verse clearly indicates, directs to devotional service, which will be stressed in the next chapters. The next 6 chapters, which is the next module, is only about bhakti, devotional service. First verse, Maya Shakta Manopata Yoga Yoga Matoshyana Samsyam Samakam Yata Shaknashi Tachinu. Hear now, Arjun. Or just about hearing about me, you can know me in full. So if you want to love something, you need to know the person. And we get to know the person by hearing about Krishna. And that's a whole module. Next module, 6 middle chapters, is about bhakti. In this first chapter, 6 chapters, we have heard about the karmis, about karma kanda, about jnana kanda, about Ashtanga yoga, and now finally the highest yogi is confirmed. It's the bhakti yogi. So for your preparation for your exam, you need to memorize 1 verse from this chapter, and this is the last one, that yoginam ape sarvisam atgenantratmana shadavam vachapeyama same yuktatame matham. So these were the first 6 chapters of the Bhagavad Gita. Are there any questions? Please. Let's see. Yeah, this is a question regarding pratyahara mentioned in 625. Is it similar to anartha-nivritti in the bhakti process? What is the difference? Thank you for this question. It's a very nice question. And so pratyahara, for your for getting a clear understanding, we will again read 625. Hardly step by step, one should become situated in trance by means of intelligence sustained by full conviction, and thus the mind should be fixed on the self alone and should think of nothing else. So this is pratyahara, is described here as cease sensual activities and going inside. So anartha-nivritti. Anartha-nivritti is what prevents us to go inside. Because the mind must be peaceful to go inside and feel the super soul. That we heard in 6-7. Chitatmana prasantasya paramatma samaita. Chita atmana, the mind must be controlled. And prasantasya, peaceful. If the mind is not peaceful, then you cannot go inside. That because the mind is always busy with lamentation or making plans or meditating on fulfilling material desires. Anartha-nivritti means giving up these anarthas which prevents us to go inside. So in some sense it is similar, but pratyahara is near to nishtha. Nishtha is where one becomes steady and can go inside. So we want to develop love for Krishna. Therefore, we chant the holy name. But in the first stages of the holy name, if we chant without offenses, then anartha-nivritti takes place at that time. The cleansing process starts with the chanting. And when the purification by the chanting is complete, which may take 30, 40 years, but when it's complete, you come to Nishtha. And when you continue chanting at that time, Haridas Thakur said, you will chant the Sudanam, the pure name. And then you will develop love for Krishna. So that process of Ashtanga Yoga is to become completely peaceful by shutting out all sensual connections. The mind is so fixed inside on the self that it doesn't perceive anything outside anymore. That to do that, your mind must be fully controlled. If there are still too much anarthas in the heart, then you cannot go inside. So it is similar to the anartha-nivritti process, but I would say the last phases of anartha-nivritti. Because anartha-nivritti is a broad spectrum. There are those who are beginning with anartha-nivritti, and there are those who are nearly liberated. It's a big difference. My answer to that is yes, it is similar, but it is the stage of one who is advancing in anartha-nivritti. Otherwise, there is no question of having the ability to go inside. But the processes, to compare them, is not easy, because before pratyahara comes pranayama, a breathing exercise and so on. It's a mechanistic way to purify the mind. And that's really more comparable to anartha-nivritti. But at the end of this pranayama, when the mind is purified after a few lifetimes, it's purified, then you can go inside. But it's a very difficult process, this yoga process. But it's an interesting question, because I never thought of it in that way. You have forced me to think about it, and certainly I would say the answer is yes, anartha-nivritti, but one who is really advanced in anartha-nivritti, nearly at the end. And then you can start to go inside. I would say it's closer to Nishtha, closer to Nishtha. That unless you are Nishtha, you cannot really go inside. So the end of anartha-nivritti, beginning Nishtha, that's pratyahara. That's my understanding. Any other question? So,
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
One question, please.
Yes, please, Balakrishna.
It seems like the process is quite difficult. So when like devotees in general speak of like going back home, described here, it looks like this is going to take a while. Like, so how do we reconcile the fact of like, on the one, like Prabhupada is saying, we should aspire to go back home, but
in Nectar of Devotion, the Rupa Goswami, he writes that the process of Krishna consciousness is a slow process which goes usually over many lifetimes. But Bhaktisiddhanta Maharaj said, you make it in one lifetime. Srila Prabhupada also said, make it in one lifetime. But what does it require to make it in one lifetime? Are you convinced that you will go back to get to Godhead in this life? If not, do everything what it takes to become convinced. And with that faith alone, you will go back to Godhead. And that's a reality. But we must do what it takes. And what it takes is, yes, sincerely and full-heartedly take the process of devotional service. What does that mean? Iayasya aredasya man karmanamana sakari nikalasya pavastusi jivan mukta sauchate. One who uses one's body, mind and words always in the service of Krishna, always is acting as a liberated person. And that's what we need to do, always. Surrender to Srila Prabhupada's mission, whatever function we have, whatever service, surrender to it completely and try to give everything to Krishna out of love. That we have discussed in the previous lesson, last week. The communication was not so great due to technical difficulties. But there you can study on the previous presentation. You can see the schedule of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, of Srila Prabhupada, and how they were fully engaged in devotional service. That full engagement, that's required, that full surrender, and then with the faith that Krishna will take care of us, we will go back to Godhead. It may mean taking another birth, but that will be as a spiritual birth. For the devotee, if Krishna wants us to remain in this material world, that's fine. If he wants us to serve here. But it's spiritual, because if you become completely pure, there's no difference of being here or in the spiritual world. That's the same thing. It lies in our consciousness that if we are Mamsyo Prabhicharana Bhakti Yogana Sevita Saganan Samatichetam Brahmabhuya Kalpate. That's the 14th chapter. Krishna says, if you are by unadulterated devotional service, by pure devotional service, you immediately transcends the modes. So such a person becomes Shivan Muktam. So it depends on us, but these verses today that we have discussed, even if it takes a few births, no problem. Finally, we surrender to Krishna. And whatever situation he gives for us, that's fine. That as a devotee, you become happy because you become attached to Krishna. You have given up all these anarthas. You are above the liberated platform. Whether you take birth or not, what's the point? It's not stopping birth. Birth and death is an illusion. It's an illusion for the soul. We are spiritual, have nothing to do with it. And that's explained in this 6th chapter. We see to the mind. And that will be explained in the 13th chapter more clearly. All this mind is giving us experience from this world. But that's all the illusory energy. It's not reality for the soul. Because we identify with the body, we undergo the experience of the body. But the Jivan Mukta, he uses the body as an instrument. And when the body has pain or pleasure, he does not identify with it. It's not easy to come out of that. But finally, that is a very important point to understand. And you cannot understand that just by practical knowledge. But when you advance in devotional service, you become more aloof of everything. But that must go to his perspectives. Does that help, Balakrishna? That I hope so. Let's see. In the Margot Peradika, she wrote, also Anartha-nivritti is easy to follow. It's easy to follow than Pratyahara. So Bhakti process is easier than Astanga process. Am I right? Yeah, Anartha-nivritti means purification of the heart. That takes also place in Astanga Yoga by the pranayam and by the yam, the niyam. It's a gradual process, yes. But Bhakti process is much easier, sure. There's a next question. So devotees generally do not get animal births, but Krishna takes away karma as per the degree of surrender. And Prabhupada also mentioned that those devotees who are not serious are still engaged in sense enjoyment, may take to animal and plant births in holy places like Vrindavan. Neophytes with gross and subtle desires are many times carried away by the allurements of sense gratification. Can you please elaborate on the 10 offenses of the holy name in these aspects? Yeah. So that is also a very important point here, that yes, it is, yeah, only the 10th offense, yeah, to remain material attached even after receiving so many instructions on that matter, yeah. So that's the point that we made, that are we going back to Godhead in this lifetime? That means we have to desire it, going back to Godhead. We need to desire to go back to Godhead. If we don't desire it, and desire to remain attached here on things in this world, yeah, that's offensive. Especially when you are in the holy Dham and you make offenses there, that Srila Prabhupada said, yes, these turtles who swim in Radhakund, they were sannyasis in previous lives, were engaged in sense gratification. That's offensive. And then you get it position. You can become a monkey in Vrindavan, but still, it is Vrindavan. And it is still a blessing to be there, even as an animal, that next life you will get again the opportunity to perform devotional service. But surely it's something to avoid, especially in holy dhams, that if you go to Vrindavan, you don't follow the four relative principles, your future will not be bright in that. So, Suman Prabhu, does that help? Also, why do many kids in devotee families do not take to devotion very seriously? So even though we progress 10% in this life, is there a guarantee that we can start rolling into next life? This is, we may remain 10% progress and then further degrade to animal life. It is in fact Shama Eva Kevalam. Yes, but the devotees would take birth in our movement, in devotee families. They may not follow everything strictly, but I've observed they have Krishna in their heart for their life. They have attended Mangal Arti and seen the deity and so on. And they may give up Krishna consciousness for some time. But finally, Krishna is with them. They are not ordinary children. But yes, if they make 10% progress, they will retain that for next life. That's Krishna's promise, because that's what he says in these verses, and that's very encouraging. We don't have any control about our children, whether they will remain devotees or not. Some will, some not. You see also Advaitacharya, not all his children became devotees. Also Nityananda, his children also did not become all devotees. So we can understand this is the material world. But still, I've observed myself, children born in our movement, they are not ordinary. They have a natural affection for Krishna that will come out sooner or later again. So any further questions? I hope this was helpful. And next week, I heard is you will get your assessments. I agreed to mark your essays and to correct your exams. So I'm looking forward to that. I will not administer the exam itself. But if you have still any questions, that you can write me, and I'm looking forward to be with you in New York in the future if the situation is changing, hopefully for the best. Yes, if I can be of any service for online lectures, I will be available. Thank you very much. Jai Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Krishna Maharaj.
Hare
Very much. Thank you. Please accept my heart.
Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, Samrat Pranam. Thank you so much.